Hey, welcome to another edition of Breaking Protocol from the Razzle Dazzle Show, our ongoing miniseries where we break down key updates and design questions straight from the development of Shade Protocol. These episodes are built around the game's community engagement series Devs Ask You, or DAUs, where Kendall and the team not only show us changing, but invite fans to shape the journey with them. Today, we're focusing on one of Zura's most defining instruments, the Nightfall Shield. More than just a wall between Zura and danger, Nightfall represents percussion in the game's musical design and embodies the fantasy of defense as power. From blocking to shield charges to parries, this weapon is built to be as versatile and expressive as any sword or spear, but with its own identity. Be sure to follow us and Little Legendary on our socials and YouTube channel, and be sure to join the Shade Protocol Discord server to follow new DAUs, vote in polls, and share your voice directly with the dev team. Links to everything will be in the description down below, and with all that being said, it's Razzle Dazzle time! I understand that parrying is often divisive in games. Some players love to parry, others hate it because of how developers choose how to implement this mechanic, right? Whether it's timing, where you have to be super precise, what's the payoff, this and that, right? Why was it important for Shade Protocol to also embrace parrying as the Nightfall's kid? Obviously, because it's a shield, right? That only makes sense to me, but going further into it, right? How else does Shade Protocol embrace it?
Without going into like actually kind of mode,
right?
It's important to look at that blocking and parrying are foundationally different things in terms of just traditional combat, right? Like if somebody's swinging a weapon at you, and you put your shield up, and the weapon hits your shield and slides off, that's not a parry, right? It's that's a block, right? You blocked. You can, of course, most of the time, if you look at a lot of ways to use a shield effectively, you have many ways of using your shield to deflect, like to whenever you know an attack is coming, you can move your shield in such a way that you will divert the attack. And that is the closest thing we have there to a parry. Can you parry with a shield? You can, but that would mean that you putting your shield into the attack, right? So that's a kind of like a requirement of parrying. Like if you're holding your weapon up and just holding it there, and something is coming your way, you're blocking, right? So I think like that's a thing that is difficult to contextualize because it can get needlessly technical and doesn't add any value. But whenever we're looking at a shield, what we wanted to do is create a parry system that would allow the shield to divert attacks, so that it will create a moment of open, an open moment for you to attack back, right? So it's a way to use use the fantasy to you're aggressively defensive or defensively aggressive, whichever of the two, same outcome, right? You want to be able to attack and defend. As long as you can control those inputs and you are thinking about it the right way, you should be able to accomplish that. Without all of that, putting that to the side, what's the simplest way to explain it? Whenever an enemy attacks you, the current design is if you tap the block button right on time, Zura will perform like a swatting motion with her shield, which will use the shield to deflect the attack, and then you're able to then move incredibly quickly, so you're not stunned there. You move and you can react, and you pretty much a normal parry. Another version that we're going to test with, this is something that we really want to do, but there's more work that needs to be done, is if you hold the shield button and you're blocking. So if you hold the block button, you're blocking now, and an enemy starts attacking you. Let's say they do a 4-hit combo. They hit you 1, 2, 3, and then the 4 is a very heavy attack. You're going to run out of block if you keep blocking everything forever, right? So the idea is, let's say you block, but at the very last attack, you let go of the button right on time. So it's the opposite of a parry, right? The parry is pressing the button right on time. What if you release the button right on time, exactly as the attack is coming? Then, of course, the motion of letting go of the block is the shield moving to the side. So technically, the motion is correct for like that swatting movement that is like a parry, right? So what would happen then is that you would block, and then when you release the button perfectly at the time that the attack is coming, with some leeway, of course, the Zura would swat that attack away, and it's another type of input that gets you the same result. So it's like a perfect block kind of state, and then you can be really, really aggressive with that. So yeah, our goal is to give you multiple ways of blocking and parrying in such a way that they don't feel like the entire game is about parrying. There are also many other tools. I mean, you know them if people are listening and you haven't seen a lot of them. uh, I think like probably you have like over 8 different defensive options in our game. I don't think like that's a short number. I mean, what you can block, parry, you can parry as tap, you can parry as release, you can dash with invulnerability frames, you can cut the world in half to move around or destroy projectiles, you can use your chakram to teleport, you can use your spear to jump away, or teleport behind enemies. So I mean that's already 8, and I'm missing instruments. So there's many things you could do to get away from damage. That doesn't mean it's going to be easy. So because of that, if somebody doesn't like to parry, we're not going to force you. Are certain enemies better to be dealt with when they're parried and they're designed to be parried? Of course, that's normal. But I don't think we will design bosses that the only way to beat them is through like parrying them. If you are a speed runner, you definitely will parry because it'll keep you in place, it will keep you close to the boss and interacting with them in that way. But if that's not how you want to play the game, we're not going to force you, because the boss will still be difficult, with or without that mechanic. So yeah, I mean, the short version of it is that the shield should allow you to be defensive, in any way you want to, that fits your playstyle. Then protocols will get in the way of that and improve that, and make you even more defensive or more offensive if you want to. And yeah, all the other systems that are coming your way are going to help you bake your defensive and offensive capabilities in a way that fit your playstyle without giving up, into the idea of like, oh, if I don't learn how to parry in the way that the game wants me to parry, then I don't get to have any fun on this boss. Not the case. But like I said, I'll just leave you with this. That doesn't mean it's gonna be easy. I don't want anyone to believe that because we are not gonna like fully force you to parry, that then therefore you can just dodge everything. Not the case, right? There are certain enemies that cannot be parried, certain enemies that cannot be blocked, certain enemies that cannot be dodged. So there's definitely incentive for you to learn the other defensive maneuvers, but not to the point that you're forced and there's no other out.
So, first of all, the shield by itself has a lot of variety. There's so much within just this one weapon's toolkit, right? As we discussed, parrying, shield charge, the blocking, obviously. There's even the shield throw, right? That I'm sure we'll get into in a future episode. But comparing the shield to the other weapons, right? The spear, the guitar axe, the chakram, and if there's more, any of those, right? How do you go about balancing all of these weapons and all their toolkits together so not one weapon is more overpowered than the other, or one has a better, you know what I mean?
Definitely. It's a core challenge of a game that has a lot of expressive combat, right? We are borderline. We're bordering for sure in what's called a cinematic fighter for sure. Like we're bordering on it, right? We have a lot of skills. Zura is very mobile. Like I think, and I mean it with incredible. I mean because we're nowhere near, and these guys are spectacular, right? Like the closest thing to the movement kit of Zura is Hornet. Like there's nothing in the market close to as active as Zura is compared to any other. I mean, maybe Prince of Persia, the Lost Crown, maybe. I think like that character is incredibly active, but in terms of mobility during combat, I think Hornet is definitely faster in terms of like how she can get in and out very quickly, and and interact with enemies in a very aggressive yet in and out way. Zura is closer to that, I would say, than anything else. But your toolkit is a lot bigger, a lot bigger. So imagine if you take all of the crests from Hollow Knight Silksong, and you don't have the crest system. So you say you'll have everything in all the crests as buttons. They're just there. Like you just have all that into one character at this one moment in time. So it's definitely a big toolkit, big toolkit. So what does that mean to your question of balance? A player can only press so many buttons. So we know for a fact that players will fit into a playstyle, and we love that. Like someone might really really like the axe, and they might use it all the time. Once again, that's a button, so you don't have to equip the axe. You have it there at all times. If you really like using the axe, then you will use the axe, and we want you to let you use the axe. We want you to fall in love with the axe and use it actively. Using the axe against really fast enemies is very difficult, very difficult. So at that point, you either press other buttons, or you build your character by by utilizing protocols and other systems that we haven't revealed yet to build a setup that allows you to take advantage of moments like that. For example, maybe there's a protocol that gives you like 1 unit of super armor, so whenever you're doing an axe attack and you're hit, you don't take any damage and you just keep flowing with your attack. Maybe as an example, so you could use that to like kind of offset attack, like in Monster Hunter, right? So you're being attacked and you just keep your attack flowing and you still hit the enemy, maybe. So things like this are where I see the balance come in, because we can take care of the distance between the effectiveness of the instruments and bring it down to a style. And then of course you never not have them. So there's never a moment where you say, oh, it'd be really good if I could hit the enemy with my spear, but I'm just using the shield now. Not the case. You just press you just press the spear button and you throw your
Right.
spear. So you don't. I don't think. I do think that there will definitely be play styles that will be more efficient than others for certain bosses, and I think that that's okay, because that's a little bit of that Mega Man inspiration, right? Like you want to say this boss is like really great to deal with the spear. Like it's designed in such a way that it feels good to use the spear toolkit very aggressively. So it showcases the power of the spear. There's nothing wrong with that. But is there going to be some Jared guy that is going to like kill the guy with the shield only? Of course, there's going to be that guy. So you want to let that happen. You just want to provide the the toolkit that allows a player to be really inventive and find different ways to deal with enemies, and discover their weaknesses, right? So that's how I think we balance that. The current design doesn't have any weapon being superior to another. Um, Damage wise, of course, the axe will hit harder than the others because it's
Right.
slower, and I think that's in itself is balance. But let's say we had a way to like instantly attack with the axe, then we would come up with ways to make that feel fair and make that feel right. So we won't leave you in a situation where you only feel that the only button you can press is this one. We definitely don't want that.
I feel like I just called I feel like I just got called out to do an entire run of only using the shield at some point, which I might do just
Yeah.
now. But I also want to extend that last question to outside of combat. What about also just pure world exploration, right? Because as we're aware, like there is so many options for mobility, for traversing with each of the weapons, right? How does balancing all of them work as well for traversal?
So this is like something that I'm very passionate about, because I really think that there are many games where there's only one answer to traversal, right? So you get to a certain point, and if you don't have the double jump, you just can't get
Right.
there, and that's like finite, and that's it. Of course, in many games, like you could kind of cheese enemies and bring them close, and then you kind of sequence break by jumping on them and stuff like that. Super cool. We love that. We want those things to happen. Um, but whenever we're thinking about something like if you can get there with like let's say you need a triple jump to get to this ledge, like if that's the case, then you can get there with the spear trampoline in our game. You can get there with the chakram teleport. You can get there with the katana wall cut. Like those are just three. You could get there, you know, that's categorically true right now. If you could get there with like three jumps, you could get there with any of the three weapons that I just mentioned. So, how does that feel right? Well, first, I why not? That's the first thing. Like, that's the number one question. Why not? Once you solve for why not, then the second part that's really important comes into play. So how do we make it so that each one of those is special? And that's where level design comes into play, and that's like just such a majestic experience, of thinking through what can be done in order to design levels that require these things. I'll give you an example. There is a type of tile that we're going to work on where it's like a type of wall, but like a transparent kind of blue wall. And if you throw your spear, it'll disappear, like it'll shatter. If you do anything to it, it'll the instrument will shatter, but the chakram can go through, right? So you can throw your chakram through this like a kind of transparent blue wall, but no other weapon can pierce it. So this is part of like the world being made out of code. It pretty much has like restrictions on some of these instruments at the code level. So it decides these things cannot interact with me, and some others can. So whenever we're designing levels, we will create areas that, of course, will showcase and allow you to get more out of these tools. And that's where I think players will have a lot of fun finding these places, and then it'll be very obvious that this is the tool that we're suggesting you use. Does that mean that you couldn't get around it by using other instruments? Not necessarily, but we will try our best, right, to create moments where you are gated by not having a certain instrument. We want that to be the case so that we can pace you and help you enjoy the game. But we shouldn't know best. I think that's and I don't want to get here overly esoterical, but I think it's really important that the developers should not always know best. We should allow players to come up with their own solutions. So if you can get there by using an instrument that is not the one that we intended to, that's not something that we're gonna go and unless it's like egregious to the point that it glitches the game or something like that, we're not going to go and fix that. Like we're going to let you do those things, because that's part of the magic of having such an expansive toolkit and getting to solve those problems on your own. So it's our challenge to make the game so fun that you want to explore it and you want to find everything that there is to find. If we don't do that, that's on us, not on you, and we shouldn't penalize you for it. So I guess the answer of it is we do have level design rules that we want to implement, which will lead to certain instruments being, of course, needed to go through certain areas of the world. But we might allow for some creative use of other instruments to get around those needs. Especially, speedrunners are going to do this, and we're going to welcome it. And players that just are very, very creative with the use of the tools will find ways around our design. So we're completely okay with that.
This has been another episode of Breaking Protocol from the Razzle Dazzle Show. Want to help with Shade Protocol becomes? Join the Shade Protocol Discord server to follow new DAUs, vote in polls, and share your voice with the dev team directly. Go follow Shade Protocol on Kickstarter, and if you like this breakdown, check out our past spotlights and interviews with Kendall right here on the Razzle Dazzle Show. Remember, the future of Emeria is still being written.